Did the NFL 100 overhype Dak Prescott, Francis?
I really don't know. What number?
So the NFL 100 is released every year by NFL Network. It's a good way for the NFL Network to, keep themselves in headlines. I think the NFL Network does a good job, don't get me wrong. I think they have better coverage than a lot of other places, considering they are the NFL Network. But they're going to be a little controversial. And as anybody understands in this point of media landscape, you got to be a little bit controversial if you want to keep your name and sport battling with the NBA Finals, the NBA Draft, the Champions League Final. There's a lot that goes on during this time. Baseball, of course, too, the NHL expansion draft. They made Dak Prescott the 14th best player in the NFL. And that seems to be a little bit overhyped. And that's not coming from a Giants fan. That's coming from the facts of, look who else. Like, I know Dak Prescott's younger.
Yeah.
But if you next year really want Dak Prescott over Ben Roethlisberger, I think that's insane. And Roethlisberger, I think, is 21st or 22nd. Yeah, he can't play on the road, Roethlisberger, and he's getting old. But if you're going to give the game ball for somebody in a playoff game for just next year's playoffs, I'd still give it to Ben. And then the year after that, maybe Dak takes over.
Yeah, so there's a couple of points here. To state, this is not just based on this last season, right? Because, they said basically that it wasn't just based ahead of, like the exact words here, and the list isn't just based on 2016 production since J.J. Watt made the list playing in 3 games and Rob Gronkowski ranked number 23.
So it's got some historical context.
Well, I mean, how else would you put Rob Gronkowski in at number 23?
Well, because I think if you were to okay, I see what they're saying. If you solely base it on last year, then J.J. Watt might not be in the top 100.
And that's why the point that to make my overarching point is you're putting Dak Prescott on one season, which was a great season. And I think the hype of the Dallas Cowboys plays into the idea that why people are putting him so high. But he's 30 spots ahead of the 2015 Super Bowl finalist Cam Newton, because Cam Newton had a bad season last year. So if you're ranking him already that much higher based on one season ahead of a player who set the league on fire a season ago, people were discussing, not concerning last year, but 2 seasons ago, people were discussing what Cam Newton can do in the future because of how he was playing the game. And because he had a poor season, where, by the way, when you look at what that team did in terms of changing their defensive backing, that selling players over like Josh Norman, blanking on names, they almost adjusted a team that was so close to winning the championship just for the sake of doing so, and then expecting Cam Newton to do everything in his power whilst being continually targeted. So that's the reason why 30 spots is a difference between 2 of those players. When I seen this list, I thought 14th in quarterbacks. That sounds reasonable. I'd probably put him a little higher. But 14th overall of all players in the NFL who have played the game, and some of them are more experienced, that to me is just a hype train. That's just to put him in there so that everyone can just be like, yeah, let's jump on this hype train for the Cowboys, which they will be good this year. They're an exciting team. With Ezekiel Elliott combining with Dak Prescott and Tony Romo's back problems no longer an issue whether they can make it, I understand why you want to do this. They're the America's team. Let's all see what the Cowboys can do, or you're either going to hate them and be like, oh my God, I want them to fail. But that's just an unjust...
They're too big to fail, Francis.
Yeah,
their offensive line is too big to fail.
It's just an unjust proposal that people are probably just putting in because they want to spark controversy.
You're heated.
Well, it's ridiculous. I think Cam Newton is one of the most scrutinized players in the NFL, and I'm not baffled. I'm not going to be a fool in saying he had a great season last year. No, he didn't. And the Panthers as a whole were not that good. But it doesn't completely alter. It's almost as if short memories are a thing in sports, but when it comes to the NFL, Jesus Christ, it's almost as short as the executive's fuses.
Let's go to the 2 graphs. I think some of these are still correct. Like Derek Carr, I mean, if he didn't get injured, man, I thought the Raiders would have met the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. I don't know if they would have beaten them, but Derek Carr, he took a major jump. A.J. Green, of course, one of the most talented wide receivers. Because A.J. Green is number 17, I would think that Julio Jones, Antonio Brown, and Odell Beckham Jr. are in the top 10. It's a lot of wide receivers to have in the top 10. And then never forget about defense, man. Luke Kuechly's a beast. Aaron Donald is a beast. Tupat, Honey Badger that's Tyrann Mathieu, but Tupat's also a beast. But again, like old-ass Drew Brees, still for just next year, take him over Dak Prescott. And then we have, I think, one more. I thought Sherman's actually a little bit too high. I think Earl Thomas and Sherman should actually be flipping places. Actually, it's insane to think that Russell Wilson's ranked lower than Dak Prescott. Yeah. Again, they can't make this perfect. The NFL has too many positions with too many players to make a top 100. Like if you were to solely do it by offense and defense and do top 100s for each, that would at least make it a little bit better. And by positions, that's even better that way, because then you're getting tiers. Also, someone made a great point recently on the Twitter. If you can find it, because all the good points get buried behind the hate speech and the racism and the fake love for attacks and stuff like that. We need to do tiers way more than we ever do lists. Like top 10s, they'll get broken down too many times, and there'll be too many conflicting opinions and too many right answers. But if you do tiers, it shows the gap between really the greatest, because then if you were to do tiers, for example, in the NFL, well, your greatest quarterbacks of all time, you get a package. You get Joe Montana, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Brett Favre-ish, right? Probably one or two more in there. That's tier 1, the best ever at their position. Maybe not Favre, but the best ever at their position. And then you get a little gap and you get the tier 2 guys, because maybe they didn't win rings or something like that, and that's the criteria for one. So let's start maybe doing tiers. Maybe we will lead the charge of tiers.